All right, well, happy Friday to Dr. Wright as we have another no shortage of busy weeks. And let's just jump right into it. Around 48 hours ago, we announced that coming up next week, the entire district would go on a remote learning setting.
Yes.
And here we are. You said all along, this is the last thing we wanted to do. But it's where we are on Monday, all schools in a remote setting. The decision made, just fill us in on exactly what went into that decision to transition to an entire remote.
Well, I've certainly shared this before, but we are monitoring every single day because so much can change in a 24-hour span, and particularly overnight, especially when we're looking at teachers being in front of their classrooms. They could have family illness, they become ill, whatever it might be. So it's every day is a monitoring of what our situation is across the district, but also by individual school. By the time we were getting to Wednesday of this week, we knew that we were seeing an escalation. We started out with 168 teachers out, 171. It jumped to 180. And by the end of the day, even on Wednesday, we were looking upwards of nearly 200 teachers that were not able to be in the classroom. And again, the first question that comes out, are they all COVID related? Not all of them. However, could be anything from being quarantined, or they have a family member that's ill, or it could even be another illness. We have the flu right now as well. So there's all these, variables that we have to take into account. But when we look across the scope of the district, where we see we might appear to be just pockets, we're watching a trend that really we have to, as best we can, maybe forecast. But if this is what we're seeing on Monday, but by Wednesday we're here. The other thing we knew, we were about 2 weeks out from Thanksgiving. That has been almost one of the best indicators that about anywhere from 10 to 14 days from a major event, holiday, whatever you want to call it, we're going to see an uptick. Well, we were not disappointed because that's exactly what we were going to see. But by the time we got to Wednesday, we spent about 2 hours going over our notes, going over charts, going over what we were seeing from even the quarantine numbers. But the first thing that we saw as the teacher numbers were going, we started seeing student absences start ticking up as well. So we knew that if this is what we're seeing by Wednesday, what would it look like trying to come back and get that last week of school for the holiday break? We knew we couldn't manage. We knew we couldn't manage because the numbers were going to even be tougher to deal with. And it certainly held true yesterday and again today, because again, we're at school, and we have teachers that right now, I refer to it as COVID fatigue. I was out in the schools yesterday. No one knew that I was going to show up, but I just, if anything, to just check on everyone. Working as hard as they know how to work, but the smile doesn't quite reach the eyes because they are so tired. And that's not to say anything other than, our teachers are trying to meet a lot of demands right now. Something that people don't realize too that takes place in the classroom. Kids are going out on quarantine, new kids are coming back into the classroom. So it's a juggling act for our teachers. I have to catch up the kids that have been out, but also make sure that I'm going to prepare as best I can for those that I know that just left for quarantine, to make sure I can get things out to them so they can manage to stay somewhat caught up. So they're doing many tasks trying to meet the needs of the students. So again, so much is considered when making decisions, but I will have to say, and I've said it and I mean it, the last thing we want to do was take that week before we go into the holiday break and go to remote. And so part of that, we've got to make sure that kids are going to be fed. We're setting up food drops, we're setting up backpack programs to make sure that we can meet as many kids, our students that are in need, or it might just simply be, a situation they're in right now, to those that we know that 30% of our families do not have access to internet. It gave teachers time to start getting learning packets together, enough that they can get, as far as either loaded on laptops, Chromebooks, the device, whatever the grade level that's using, but doing a lot of the preparation right now so students wouldn't be struggling in that next week. And that takes us to as far as remote learning. I'm not quite sure where the mythology has started and why it starts. But we've already had several schools that have been out on remote come back in, then have to go again. The remote model of how we started the year is nothing compared to where we are today. We had to perfect something that we had no knowledge about. We did not, there was no reason to even experience. That was just not our world. And so we really had to turn an aircraft carrier around in a bathtub when we started the school year.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can think. And our teachers kept getting better. But the thing that we had to catch up as well, that was not a model that was comfortable for families. And it was also difficult when as far as with students on those remote days, and particularly going from asynchronous to synchronous learning. We've learned a lot. We've posted a lot of videos. We've tried to help train the parents. So as we were transitioning, getting ready for this next week, it was like, oh no. So really, essentially, it's going to be a week of no learning. It's not the case.
One of the bigger complaints or questions coming out of Wednesday's announcement was you go to a remote setting, but you keep your kids club open and you have your extracurricular and athletic competitions. Those are still going on. I think there was some confusion on that and maybe some clarity that perhaps that you can provide regarding that.
Well, Kids Club, and that's something, it's a separate entity as far as having school. And Kids Club is our service to parents that are having to work, needing to work. And so this is, it's not anything new. And so Kids Club even runs in the summertime. Again, it's a service to parents that want to avail themselves of good quality childcare. And so we've got 4 big sites available. We follow the same protocols and the same safety precautions. But let me add the caveat to that: COVID pending.
Exactly. They can be susceptible to have a shutdown of their own.
Yes, and that's happened.
And it's happened, and we don't want that, but it was unnecessary to take away that piece because parents who are working, they need that service. So that's why Kids Club, a healthy Kids Club, stays
open.
Now the athletic competition, that also got some comments the other day that were pretty fiery on that. And so some clarity on that you want to provide.
Well, first and foremost, it's do you want to participate? Do you want your child to be a part of it? Do you want to be? That's first. The second thing, that when we have closed some of the programs down, and not closed, postponed.
Correct.
6th grade basketball, for example, postponed to be opened up later. And again, it's in the nature of the program what we decide to do. We have some choral programs. We've reduced capacity, just like the athletic events. We've gone from 50%. The capacity to enter now is 25%. Electronic tickets, and so there's nothing as far as touching. And then the next issue, Bart, is that, well, you're not mandating masks. We're requiring masks. But you know what? We have people that refuse to wear masks. I'm just going to put it out there, and want to get into an argument about it. And our principals are having a difficult time requiring. So the next iteration probably shut it all down because of the adults. We are in the critical range right now, not in as far as that where we start getting the alerts. We are in the critical range. When you look at the county count, we're in the 25%. We're in the highest range right now in Middle Tennessee. Maybe the state, but I do know Middle Tennessee, 25%. We're leading the pack. And that is in active COVID cases. And when we're looking at hospitalizations locally, we need to be alarmed. And what I'm afraid of, because what we're seeing is that trend that starts looking at that parallel with our school system. We're going to take every precaution. The last thing we need to do, and if we have to do, we will do, is shut everything else down too. But Kids Club right now, it's a service to parents. They need it. If one site becomes COVID active, it shuts down. And parents know that. The other thing is that while teachers are working next week, we have our the TLC that cares for, which they pay for it. I don't want anyone thinking it's a free service, but teachers pay for child care while they're providing instruction for students. So we'll get up until the end, as far as the 18th being the last day. We break until the January the 5th, and then we pick up and return to the model
that we left.
unless that we see something that's going to occur after the holidays that might be alarming. But again, we communicate. I cannot thank you enough as far as the information that goes out. It might not be the information that people want to hear, but we're going to keep you informed.
Absolutely.
And that's where we are.
Yeah, it's a big question. A lot of people say, well, on the 5th, can I fully expect to go back to how things were before we all went to remote? And I think you and I sitting here right now cannot offer, you as the director cannot offer that 100% guarantee. It's not to say that it won't, not to say that it will,
Mark,
but
I
I think the key word is it's the intention
It's the
to
intention.
return.
Because even with looking at the metrics, and you're part of those meetings, we're looking at those numbers.
Hourly.
And yeah, when it was hourly and watching it change. And this week alone, we never anticipated that it would get that high. We were stunned, absolutely stunned. And so I guess that's the thing, that the alarms going off, that if this is getting into the beginning of that 2-week period, next week would even be harsher.
Right.
And I hate to use the word, but grim.
Well, all right, well, Dr. Wright, again, thank you for all the information and this update on our weekly chats. I know that they've been helpful for a lot of people, and I think what it does more than anything, it helps fill in the gaps of maybe if someone receives some information that may not have been entirely accurate or whatever the case may be. So I think this gives us an opportunity to let our parents know that kind of a behind-the-scenes snapshot of what went into certain decisions, why they were made, and the outlook as we move forward. So.
And if there are any questions, concerns, there's no need to blast it on social media until you check with us first. And if if the response isn't what you like, or if there's a concern, then get on social media. At least give us allow us the courtesy of, there's something that's happening that we are not delivering, or in some way that there's a misunderstanding, please give us a call.
It's good advice all the way around, but again, we say thank you again for your time
Thank
today.
you.
Have a
Stay
good one.
well.
You as well. Everyone have a great weekend. Thank you.